everyone. Welcome to the BetSperts Golf Zurich Classic betting preview. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited to be joined by the director of all things content related here at BetSperts. It is Andy Molitor. Andy, Bayou behind you. Nice sunrise or sunset going on back there. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, nice little marina.
Yeah,
It's
nice.
it's Tuesday, I guess. There's golf. There's golf, I guess. We kind of alluded to this the other week as far as like there's some rough ones in here, and then you get to a really good stretch of the Schwab, obviously Southern Hills, a couple other invitationals after that. I'm pumped for the months that's to come, but for right now we'll just soldier on through this. We'll soldier through the stupid team event. Really selling it, really hard selling it.
Good
today.
start. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't stay and they log in, but they will stay for your favorite golf touts. Favorite golf tout from the Mayo Media Network, Geoff Feinberg. Jeff, good morning.
What up, guys?
Team event, buddy. We know we liked the match play because we break up the monotony of the stroke play event. They jam it back down our throats this week, and we get a little bit of break in the norm. But I'd rather have this in, say, I don't know, late July, John Deere-ish maybe. But we gotta do what we got to do with. How do you feel about just the premise of team golf, Jeff?
So sort of like you, I wish it was spread out because I do really enjoy anytime they change it up. I think there's more opportunities that they should change it up. I know data guy and DFS guy sometimes can't stand that because it makes, it just turns it into like a narrative street week, when you get into things like match play or team golf. And that's the last thing that so many of, the educated bettors want to bet on. But there's like 50 weeks of this shit. And as Adam Scott said, only 11 of them actually mean something. So I'm shocked we don't have a co-ed event as I'm rocking my LPGA hoodie at the moment. Like how we're not there. Forgetting the fact that like all the times like should have brought us to a co-ed event. We should just have one. I think it would be pretty good. I think it could be fun. Anyhow, so I'm not against it. And I'll be honest, I think Sundays in the format where it's alternate shot that they changed to a couple years is an absolute firecracker. Not to mention, you can make the case 4-day stroke play is like maybe the most boring thing in sports. We do it 50 freaking weeks in a row. So I don't mind. I like coming up with some narratives, making some bets on some teams where I like the golfer. I'm just fans of the golfers. Low exposure week. I've been getting punched in the nuts like for a few now again. So we got to get off the mat, but it's low exposure. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a good TV watch in relation to the match play, where the weekend on the match play kind of just it gets really good. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in particular, because Friday you get the last thing, and then you get the playoffs essentially, and then this I do agree it makes for good TV. Would definitely classify myself as the data guy that struggles with how to properly account for alternate shots, and how do I take a look at I want to lean on Zalatoris and approach, and maybe that's Davis Riley, right? And we know that Davis Riley can make some birdies, and maybe that helps Zalatoris. Like we'll get down to the specifics, but it just makes it really hard to kind of, quantify good plays. But it makes for some good TV, Andy.
Yeah, how far behind are we? Just a backwards country still? And I say we. I'm keeping Jeff out of this because he's not from here. But like there are co-ed events on other tours, like that. I believe it was that Australian gal. Like she won or maybe it was Europe. There was somebody who won a co-ed event where it's like, that's amazing. Like she played against a bunch of men and won. The closest thing we have is maybe, there's a few celebrities that play in the Pro-Am, but that doesn't count.
Lexi
and then you have
plays in the QBE shootout sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Lexi will play in that, and that doesn't fare well. But if every team was paired up with a woman, I mean, you're talking about the Canadian team, I guarantee you I would have money on the Brooke Henderson, like Corey Connors team if that actually rolled out ever in a co-ed event. And I know like you guys as Americans can laugh at like the type of power team you could run out. And then the South Koreans, I don't know if they'd have enough males to keep up.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say they go 10 deep on the women's side.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure where you get once you get past a couple top guys.
Anyhow, just to bring it back, I get how it's a totally frustrating week for data and betting, and you sometimes just got to play narratives, and even just trying to figure out what teams like can work together, because I think people too often get lost in, oh well, he's a great iron player and he's a great putter, and that like just the yin the yang of that. I don't think that's kind of what I think. In a perfect world, you want guys that play very similar games, that are used to hitting from similar yardages, potentially. Now, it doesn't hurt that if you have a great ball striker, you can hope that potentially that putter can bail him out. You can create any narrative you want this week. I guess that's kind of what you got to do, but be careful. And before we get into it, I would say, Ryan, that despite getting 100-1 winner circle here the first year with Cam Smith and Blixt, and now like with the advent of 2020 hindsight on this, you can argue, Cam Smith's ceiling. You can look at anything like that and be like, well, like clear ceiling player. That's not, shouldn't read too much into him winning at 100-1 very young in his career based on what's happening now.
Yeah.
We normally see very quality teams win. And if you even look at the teams that contended, if they're usually a mix of the teams that will find under 50-1. So I don't like going too deep. I really don't. You can, feel guilty on a Thursday. You didn't play that bomb pairing, but whatever. By the end, it's going to be same old.
Yeah. The other piece of it here too, is that we have another Pete Dye track, which we've had a bunch of here. This is kind of like Pete Dye season, and we know again we'll have some forced layups, and we know just in general the Pete Dye tracks kind of bring the field together. There isn't a prototypical like golfer archetype that tends to succeed here. You kind of have to be deep throughout the bag that week, and that makes it a little harder too, where you can get to certain layouts where you're like, okay, this is definitely the type of guy that plays well. So we're gonna need scoring, obviously, in a team event. We need, some good putting approaches, obviously going to be key, but that's just another layer of added wrinkles. You know what would make this event awesome? Make this completely different and kick ass is we're probably a ways away from televising the draft, but make this a draft. Give us some sort of like throw it on Twitter if you don't want to put it on TV. Like think about how much better the NBA All-Star game is because like they changed up the format and they made it a draft. Like show me Morikawa picking Hovland. Like I would love to see the process.
They wouldn't play.
Yeah, that's probably true.
A downside. They wouldn't play, I think, a lot of the top guys. It's still their time, it's still their money. Morikawa, Hovland, they could go do a they could literally be paid by Zurich more than they could make this week just for doing a clinic somewhere in like California, literally for some fancy execs on a Tuesday, if these guys want. So yeah, that's in theory that sounds fun, but I don't know. I think the closest thing you get to that, Ryan, will be this fall with the President's Cup, where the matchups are like an actual, you draft the matchups as opposed to the blind matchups you get at the Ryder Cup. You see who the other team puts out. You say, I'm going to put that guy against them. You got to sort of, but other than that,
I like that a lot too. That's how it. And I mean, a lot of people maybe don't follow high school wrestling, but that's how it was with, with high school. Like you alternated
on a batting order. You didn't see what the other side's batting order was.
It alternated. They had to put their wrestler out at a weight, and then you can make a decision on who you're putting out there. And there's some strategy to that. That's why I like that about the President's Cup. The draft would be tough, like Geoff said. Geoff being our voice of reason. But it's funny, we brought this up last night too, talking the NBA playoffs with, the fact that the Nets super team is a 7 seed, and our guest was like, if you're a top 4 seed, you should get to pick your opponent. Like you shouldn't have to just play a 7 seed because of this. Like, so we've been doing a lot of draft talk, and then it devolved into you should have your team's biggest shit talker do the drafting. So you can say like, hey, we want the Bulls because they suck. And like, I don't think golf is quite at that point, but I like that, and I definitely will be. I don't know. Is it sacrilege to say I like the President's Cup better than the Ryder Cup? I think it kind of is.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is. That just means like you like watching Alabama beat like those teams they'll play the first couple weeks instead of when they have to play their real schedule. The other interesting part of this event is a lot of the teams at the top, the high profile players, we have an understanding of where their pairings come from, be it because we know more about them, we understand the friendships, or golf media, as limited as it is in that sense, sort of makes us aware. There's so many pairings that you don't know if they just have the same agent, like if they've ever met, if they literally just signed up for the event and they're two like single riders trying to get on a chairlift together. So that's the other interesting part. I wouldn't want to any interest in having any money or specific. This is probably more of a DFS comment because anyone under 60-1, you could probably track how that pairing came out. But for having to fill that DFS roster, I wouldn't want any pairing of guys that have just been like randomly grouped together. I wouldn't.
Oh, I get it. That's kind of the appeal of the draft. And I get that it's, better in theory than probably in application and for the reasons you spoke of. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm so curious of how, and maybe I just don't know. Maybe some guys I know they've been together on the tour forever. They play practice rounds together. They're friends. It's going to happen. You're going to intertwine with 200 random guys over the course of a couple of years. You're going to make some friendships. So
yeah, junior golf, and then
exactly.
You have the ones like lifetime friends, like we're hearing about Riley and Zalatoris, and that's apparently a real thing. But again, they're 40-1. We know a lot about at least Will Zalatoris, so that story has really developed this week. I'll be honest, guys. Well, disclaimer, I've bet them. But coming into the week, I didn't know that they were like these lifetime buddies. For me, it was just like, I'm betting Will Zalatoris at anything over 30-1. If he has a partner who can help him out, hopefully not hurt him, whatever. I don't know. Finding out it's like a lifelong childhood buddy who they played together countless times, and you look at Will Zalatoris, you're telling me these two couldn't rolled up on munis forever and just literally gone match mode against guys on the first tee? Like, yeah, literally. Like, look, you see Will's like, okay, how much you want to play for, stranger? Let's go. Me and my buddy Davis are here. Now, I'm creating a narrative, but I've bet it, guys, for the win.
It's one of two that I have as well, because I'm with you. Like, Zalatoris is tied to a number that's, in the 30s or above. There's 40s out there. That makes a lot of sense. We'll get into the top of the card here. Andy, is there anything at the very top? Obviously, there's, to Jeff's point, we have, I think, maybe 5 to 10 really solid teams of guys that, contend most weeks out there on tour. Obviously, pretty short numbers at the very top for Morikawa and Hovland, and Xander and Cantley. Xander or Cantley kind of getting things correct over the last couple of weeks. Nice little approach play at the Masters, and then, put himself in contention last week at Harbour Town. And then you get Ryan Palmer, which we need like a 30 for 30 on Ryan Palmer's ability to pair up here, because it's pretty remarkable. He just, I don't know what he's doing. He seems like it must be the ultimate hang. Jeff, I don't know if you have any insight on
I have an idea.
Okay.
But it's the only thing that makes any sense whatsoever. He's literally signing a contract, and Jon Rahm will now benefit from this because he can't win he doesn't win otherwise. I've never bet Ryan Palmer to win ever on the tour. It only burned me 1 week here playing with Rahm. Whatever. Ryan Palmer must convince them, or his agent, you sign with Palmer, you win, you get like 15% of every future earnings he gets through his now exempt window on tour. I don't understand how anyone could fall into something like this so much.
It's incredible.
Without some sort of perpetuity payment that he now probably owes Jon Rahm every time he cashes a PGA check for keeping him keeping a card. I don't know, but that's my suggestion.
Yeah, he's like a goofy looking freshman who shows up at the senior prom with the prom queen just 4 years in a row. Like every year, it's like this guy just keeps showing up. What is going on? It's not like he's a bad golfer. He's not like some 200th, OWGR guy can.
And an ideal partner in many respects.
Around. Yeah, and honestly, maybe it's a guy who can team play well. I'm not even a person who is very good at remembering the difference between Like when I say best ball, I 90% of the time mean scramble. Because around here, just when we have scramble events, like just charity golf tournaments, like everybody just uses best ball as a fill-in word for it. And it's not the same. It is not the same. I play scramble events for sure. So I don't know. There are people who are better suited to that. And as we talked about in match play, the strategy is a little different. It's not like you're against a certain opponent. You know, you are against the entire field, but when you're playing best ball and you're both playing your ball, I mean, there is a certain strategy to Jesus, my guy sprayed it off the tee. I need a very safe tee shot. Like I need par here because I don't know if he's finding it. Like we need a safe score because old Ryan Palmer here put it out in the woods or out in the goddamn swamp. So there is strategy to this. I'm sure there are guys who are better at it. And I mean, the fact that I'm able to enunciate like, hey, here's what I would do makes me think any professional golfer would be able to also figure that out. But I mean, that said, I think when I looked at it and I looked at all the rules and I thought about it deeply last night, I just want guys who will find the green. Because, in every other day, you're going to get 2 shots at the green. And if I can get a couple guys that can just throw darts at the pin on the same team, like that's my squad. That's just my ride or die squad. Because half the holes you're getting 2 approach shots, and if I got a couple guys who can fire away, I don't give a shit about putting. Never do, never will. But even less when I get double the approach shots.
I didn't do this, but I would argue it's maybe an advisable strategy to just bet 2 teams under 20-1 and call it like a week. And you don't have to bet it huge, but I wouldn't think that's a bad way to go about doing it.
That makes sense, especially with some of like the top heavy teams. So, you're looking at like Pinnacle's odds, Hovland, Morikawa at the top, Cantley, Schauffele. We know that Smith and Leishman defending champs here. Obviously, countrymen. We talked about the Scotty Scheffler and Ryan Palmer team, and then you also have Sammy Burns, Billy Horschel. Horschel's played well here in the past. Played well here when it was a singles event. Top of the board. If you were to do that, Geoff, I know your cards looked a little different based on what you've done so far. Where would you take those 2 shots?
Well, I think if I was betting the very top, I'll be honest, I'd be tempted from like the Morikawa Hovland team is very tempting. But again, Sunday's going to be a real trip, and you're going to have to make a check. Like Sunday's going to be a wild trip in some respects. Morikawa probably might not be used to hitting those second shots where Victor puts them. But Victor will hit anything from where that's not to debate the players. From a like narrative standpoint, I don't think it's debatable. Like the only team in this group that would consider not winning a disappointment, like to how they're probably leading into the week, feels like the Burns Horschel week. They're the team that feels like they're not as much here to have a good time, make a paycheck, play together. Of these higher end teams that don't need a tour card like 60 of the teams trailing north of 60-1. Like everyone here is fine. They seem like the team that is the most hyper motivated, that in my opinion will play this event probably until they knock it off together. Like they seem pretty dedicated and wanting. Burns and LSU guy will be here forever. Billy's won here, played great here. I think as a pairing, they're going to run this pairing until they actually bring home those belts. So forced to make a bet in the range, I think that's the bet. Also, golf betting has felt real obvious lately. Between Scheffler and I know Lowry didn't win. I think you were on it at that had to be.
I was.
I had both of you. I wasn't, but I felt stupid because it was like I was on Varner who, how does he, what, I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
I don't care to get into it, but I just mean like as a guy who didn't bet Lowry, it's like so obvious. Scheffler, so obvious. Why can't just obvious? As much as sexy as Morikawa Hovland, obvious feels like Burns and Horschel, and we're kind of in this obvious window right now. All that being said, I haven't made that bet yet, but I don't know if I'm gonna bet it. But that feels like the most logical sound bet from the top.
Andy, you were flirting with that one this morning. Did you pull the trigger?
Yeah, I looked. I just made 3 bets. So, Hovland, Morikawa. I haven't bet that yet. I'm gonna shop that. I'm gonna try to find something a little closer to 10. Don't think I'm gonna get it. And then the Billy Horschel, Sam Burns thing. Like that just makes. I love Sam Burns. I hate Billy Horschel. I hate his guts. I hate his face. I hate his attitude. I hate everything about him. But I'll bet on people I hate. And speaking of like going back, I stumped hard for Harold Varner III. Backtracked because the number got beat up. Ended up betting him top 10, top 20, which was great. That cashed bigly. 6-1 top 10. Very nice cash on that. But I didn't have his outright, and I was so mad. I'm like, I sat here. I looked Jeff Feinberg right in the eyes and said, this is my guy. And then I ended up keeping him off the card. I had that hard FOMO. And then I'm like, all right, at least I got Lowry. Like, we're going to get our outright anyway. And then Shane does what Shane does. But my third one is Hadwin Svensson. Big Svensson guy. I'm not sure how it translates to this course, but I've been all over Hadwin lately, and Svensson is high enough in the smaller sample size I have on the guy that at a number north of 50, I'm on him. So that might be my whole goddamn card all week. I'm sure there's going to be matchups. That's super hard to bet. I don't know. Maybe we'll delve into that in a little. Like if you guys are even considering making top 20th matchups, first round leader, other derivatives, like this might not be the week to go hog wild, guys.
So I love the Svensson Hadwin team being a Canadian. I almost made the bet already. I haven't, but I got room to make the move. If it's not at the top, that is where I would go. Hadwin feels like he'd be 60, 50 to 1 in New Orleans right now anyway. And Svensson feels like he can carry his own and hit the greens. And I mean, like you talk yourself in any pairing. That's the pairing. Like Svensson just hits these greens. Hadwin can pick up the putts. Hadwin hits enough greens. Like that's one. And as someone going into the next tier, I'll, could talk about, Team Chile or this or Team Canada. There's some of these pairings, South Korean pairings where like, a U.S. team winning this week, even if it is Horschel and thing, it'll just be a fart in the wind. There's baseball. It's draft season. We're in playoffs for the NBA on Sunday, which I'm sure is going to have a huge TV game like there was last Sunday with that Celtics next game. I'm telling you, it'd be like big news here. Like it would. And it should be in the same way. Like if Chile won, it would be seen as maybe like a sporting, not a major, but it would be like a breakthrough sporting moment in some small way, I think, for them and what their future can hold. Yada, yada, yada. So I really do like that Canada team. And if they don't win, I'll be maybe mad at myself for not pulling the trigger because they kind of, if I don't bet them, they feel like they're going to be the first team off the card. Yeah,
the Hadwin form you can't argue with. He continued it again last week. We talked about it leading into the event.
It hasn't been popping. So if you get like a pop Svensson, and then somehow Hadwin Yin Yang's the other whole, like there's this whole thing, going through this entire card, just.
So we're gonna do this.
I'm not betting them, but like you're gonna wake up or look at the leaderboard for the first time and see the Goombas of Bradley and Steele are like 10 under. You'll be like, makes no sense, but it makes all the sense in the world.
Well, at least those two are appearing to make sense, right? They're buddies. They play practice rounds together every week. They're of similar age, like
and similar games, almost identical. Like they'll have no issue being comfortable in spots they're left because they leave themselves in those spots all the time.
Yep.
Feels like an article I saw last year or the year before, and I bet if I look, I bet I won't even have to look. I'll see it again today or tomorrow. Here's the golf balls everyone uses. Because when we get it around Ryder Cup too. When we get to alternate shot, somebody might have to hit a Callaway when they used to, they're used to hitting VX1s.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I think it's a thing.
probably overrated.
It is probably very much overrated. And these guys it's not like these guys are in isolation chambers before they meet on the first tee. Like they're talking about this sort of thing.
Yeah, they'll
like,
rip short a couple irons. If they've got to rip irons with the Callaways this week, like when Buddy's teeing off with his ball or however, I don't know who like, is the guy hitting the second shot the guy who wants his ball or the guy hitting the tee shot who prefers his ball? It's an interesting question. Yeah. Maybe teams have their own strategy in that. But yeah, there's hundreds of little things. Also, New Orleans, guys probably bring their wives. It could just be partying. Like, you have no freaking clue. That Shoffley-Cantley team, they could win. Surprise nobody. We'll give Xander no respect for it in terms of him needing to get off the mat. Or they could just, we know they love to do wine country together. This could just be dinners and booze ups. Like, we got no idea what the mindset is for these teams. Can I tell you, though, guys, sometimes the books could be giving us a message. Two things. Scotty Scheffler, again, no one's talking about him, I guess, first start out of a major win.
Now, maybe that's the obvious one that's going to slap us in the face when we sit here next week.
And Palmer's just so reliable. We didn't trust Palmer. We're so But it's that Fleetwood Sergio line. It's like the books are telling you, don't bet it. Do not bet these two. We don't want to take your money on Fleetwood and Sergio. You're telling me the books are hyper aware to Tommy ringing off top 25s that only I'm losing outright bets on? Like, that's what's happening? What's going on? I thought I'd get a 20, 22, 25.
It's short.
It's crazy how short that one is. And I love that pairing. Love it.
Yeah, I like the Team Chili pairing too, but that's short. But even that's not as short, which is shocking, to be honest. I mean, you're kind of in the same spot, but you look at some books like DraftKings, like Tommy and Sergio are 16. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. We haven't been really betting them at all, or either of them even really in the 30s very often. Like, you've been catching, what have you been like 50s, 45s on?
Yeah,
on Tommy?
Tommy even got a 60, and then book went to 70 on my streeter, and I'm like, it's like they're trying to take they know I'm here. And again, he had a fantastic Sunday, guys, though. And sometimes you love to see a great Sunday, doesn't have a win, kind of played himself out of it. 2 over through 2, still finished at 11 under. So he had a wagon of a Sunday, which is something you love to see, as I'm a Fleetwood stan. And again, this would be a win where we wouldn't even be like, guys, respect it. And you'd be like, no. Right? Like, hey, a lot. Yeah. And it's a team win. Sorry, Tommy. Like, prove something to us still. But hey, we are where we are.
So the win that would mean the most, and I think he's probably coming back anyway, is the Benny Ann win. Right? Benny is, stuck on the Corn Ferry. Got a second there last week. He's been playing pretty good. Won in February, so he probably is working his way back on tour. And then we also have Sanjay form. Obviously, nice showing at the Masters. Played pretty well. Tee to green was pretty awesome at RBC at Harbortown. So again, they're at 40. That's probably, again, it's a decent number. And I can tell myself the narrative that they're probably not going down to Louisiana for, beignets and Creole. They're going down to compete. They're trying to get Benny back on tour. And we have really nice Sanjay form as well. So that was my favorite play at the top so far. This is as high as I've gone or short as I've gone. I can get sold pretty much anything there above that, but that's one of the narratives, like to Jeff's point, we have to kind of tell ourselves this week.
So happy to hear you're on it, because I got that one with the Willie Zizzle one. I think Sanjay, it's been brought to my attention because Mayo's really high on this and did the hard sell on me yesterday. I bought right in. Like, I didn't even need more than 2 minutes. You see Benny Ann's form. You see Sanjay lost 4 strokes putting. He's playing fine. It's like you're taking your Sanjay at 40-1 and you're getting an informed Benny Ann, which is almost as much as you can ask for playing a second wheel who is above 30-1. Probably wish Davis Riley was playing a little better, but different subject. I'm just beholden to trying to catch the Willie win. That's all. I think Ben Ann, by his stats though, Ryan, or his finishes, he would have to do something colossal to not get his tour card right now. So he probably doesn't have that sort of pressure, but nonetheless, it would be perfect. It would play huge in their homeland. Certainly a team that I form wise and desire wise and friends wise checks the boxes that I can feel comfortable making the bet.
And we typically wouldn't reference this, but we're just having to sell ourselves narratives and we don't have a lot of data. But last time that this place was a solo event, I believe Benny Ann had a top 5 here. So he's played here, had some success. Now this is 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. So it's been a little bit of time. But again, this is kind of the stories we have to reverse engineer this week to sell ourselves on some of these. So that's one that I like quite a bit. To your point, he probably doesn't need it to get in, but it's also like Canada. That's you know,
probably bigger.
Totally.
Probably play bigger for them. Going backwards a bit, guys, because I feel these two teams are kind of being like just poo-pooed a little. I'm not betting them, but I would argue, like, you guys been riding Lowry. If you bet him at the like, it feels like, oh, am I gonna get off? I could make the argument, at least in this world of outright betting, that Poulter is an ideal partner for him off like a real tough moment Sunday. Same with Bubba for Varner. I think those are ideal partners for these guys who, like, a real gut-wrenching Sunday for both of them in many respects. That, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think
I get what you're saying.
I'm with you. I'm with you with the Sir Ian James there. And I hate his guts. I hate another one. I hate his face. I hate a lot about him. And
he needs it. Lowry's got to do it for Poulter. We want to talk about tour cards. I'm telling you guys, Poulter is on the precipice of trouble.
He is.
And
that's the thing.
Maybe that's a good thing, or you want him on TV more, so you don't want to lose him for good, Andy. I know that.
He's a guy I've bet against a lot in matchups. Like, his form has been a bet against, and obviously Lowry is a bet on. So I saw that right away. I said, like, I got a guy I like. I like his stats. I got a guy I hate. I've been betting against.
How much more would you ever...
But it's not, I'm not betting on these two men individually. It's a team. We've seen what Poulter can do in team events. I mean, he's a good teammate on these Ryder Cup teams, on things like people like having him on these teams, and he's a smart golfer. He can remember when he got crazy hot with his putter, like for 3-4 events last year? He didn't win any, but he was just like, he was ramming it where he was just like backdooring top 10s and stuff with just these crazy putting performances on Sunday. Like, he's still got it in the bag. Just at that number, I don't know if I can get in bed with Ian.
You'd almost rather a few more points. Like, what would the Lowry number be if it was like an all-Irish power pairing? Because that one, like, I'd be zoned in on big time. I promise you, I would have been.
Yeah, you could sell yourself on a couple of nice rounds of Graham at the at Harbor Town, and I think he had a decent finish. Like, I think he was T20 or he was pretty close. So, like,
if you give me Lowry power, I'm betting that down to -110.
Oh, well, that team would be, I went Graham McDowell.
Yeah.
And Bubba, like, I think Bubba's an ideal partner for Varner, who's like constantly just in this keeping it positive. What you guys can see as a failure, I still see a win. Like, I beat 155 guys. Like, this is my journey. Varner's like very into the pro self. I'm just shocked he shot 1 under and not either 6 under or 6 over on Friday. Just the way he sells himself to me is hyper aggressive. The fact Varner was putting 28 feet for freaking birdie all day, never would have guessed that. It, like, to me, it would have been a total boomer bust. Nonetheless, 2 guys wearing Jordan 12 shoes, like, they'll be fire. They'll be straight fire. I'll be kicking myself if they show up because I'm not betting them, but I like it. I like now they could blow up and miss it, but I feel like there's an opportunity for a firecracker there. I tell you,
I do too. And that's the only, I think, like, off the outright board play that I'm going to make, is I think those two for first round leader, where they're just best ball. You could fire at pins. You can make birdies. I don't care for them necessarily in alternate shot, but I think with the way that the format is, we're going to get first round leader is best ball. I think those two for first round leader play are going to be how I get some exposure to them. Because I'm with you. I think that they're
and they're buddies. We saw them play in match play head to head. So we saw there was a clear friendship that was obvious during and after that match. And obviously something's led to this pairing. So there's no doubt that they're pals.
Well, they rock fire shoes, and that is enough to bond people together, I would think. I mean, I respect the hell out of anyone with the 11s or the 12s, classic 4s. Bubba will rock out sometimes. So
and Palmer still rocks those white on white 11s. It's good. It's good when you get to play in those hoity-toity places where there's someone there to scrub them clean after the round. The white on whites,
Yeah, I would not want to. Those would be like year 11s. I put those on the shelf behind me, and I wouldn't take the whites outside. Anything down the board, fellas? I know we've kind of talked. Like I said, I like the Benny Ann Sanjay team. We mentioned Bradley and Steele being buddies. There's kind of an outlier at DraftKings. That's a 45 there. Like that's 31 in a lot of other places. That's a little bit interesting. We mentioned the other Graham and Seamus I talked about there a little bit. I like the Svensson and Hadwin team. Geoff talked about not going too far down the board, Andy. Is there anything else down here that's kind of caught?
We're talking friends. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I didn't mean to cut it. I just saw if there's an angle, like you have to acknowledge that there's two teams of all Bulldogs in front of 50-1.
True.
You can put 7 teams together with Bulldogs. They all live in the island together.
No, of course. So, I mean, you can't be dismissive of them. I'm not betting them, but I'm prepared to get got by just a silent assassin Kirk Todd team or Kazire and Poston, who's on a nice one.
Who's Keith Mitchell playing with?
Snedeker.
Sneds, yeah.
Oh, that's
who went from playing very well to playing horribly. Yeah. I feel like I'm not getting enough there. Kind of caught my eye for a moment, Andy, but I just didn't feel like I was getting enough to want to pull that trigger. But Bermuda, right? So
the other one that's interesting to me, deep, but I don't know the friendship base. It feels like probably a pairing that was jammed together is Doug Gim and Thea Schwab. Just Gim, there's a little, again, he hasn't been on tour very often, but pretty decent Pete Dye track guy so far. Schwab's had some pretty good showings of late. They probably, meeting at the driving range and not a big history of playing together. So that kind of has given me a little pause, but they're down there like 75s, which is pretty interesting. 75 on FanDuel for that one. So that one's a little down the board. That's interesting to me. But there's not a lot down here that's jumped out.
Yeah, I don't know where the pairing's from. I could get really on. I'm almost on board with it, Ryan, not knowing where it morphed to. I saw Josh Perry picked him for the outright.
Okay.
Which, I respect Josh a lot. So maybe he has something. I know that he finished. Gim played with Sue here last year, and they played quite well. So, I mean, obviously Gim has now gone to a new pairing. I have no idea where it's from, and Schaub's been playing well. So if there's a friendship there, that could be something I'll be looking to maybe attack in a prop market or placing market, and certainly the DFS spaces.
Andy, are you going to talk? You asked there. Are you going to be taking shots in the finishing position market? I know you like to do matchups. I'm guessing you probably still do that, but I know for me, it's typically where I build the meat of my card, and I just think I'm probably a light week. There's a big glowing, shining orifice in the sky next Thursday of where I'm, sending a lot of funds to. So
I need the draft to happen. The draft needs to happen for me to get some money back in my post-up accounts and some credit back everywhere else. But I'm probably going to go what I usually do, 4 or 5 outrights. I'm going to look at top 20 markets, and that's all price-based for me. If I think there's some value, I'll take some shots on some guys. I had a couple guys finish, like T24 that kept me from really banking on that, but it's mostly just going to be a light card where I just, like I talked about the 3 or 4 outrights I already have, a decent chance I'm going to add one long shot. I need to figure out a little more about Taylor Moore. I like Neesmith a lot. Taylor Moore
Who's he with?
Neesmith.
Oh, Yeah, I don't know. That's
a big price. That's probably a top 20 if the price is right. But like one long shot down the board that it's past the Svensson Hadwin one. This might be the last one I add, and it may be for a smaller stake, which I don't often do. Is Joseph Bramlett, Mav McNeely.
Yeah, what's the odds on that? Because I've seen it really short.
Yeah, it is a little
places
short.
I have access to.
So a couple places have that really short, as in people are betting it.
Yeah, someone must have smashed it. I swear.
I also I have 75s on it.
Yeah, my streamers took it down to like the 40s, and I'm like, someone must have and they do their own thing. There's some of these books that literally they just rock by their own liability. They don't care what other markets have. It's strictly in their own shop house, and they don't want to take another cent on it because somebody must have eviscerated a ticket around some real sharp guy. You assume those types of people aren't betting this event because the data doesn't substantiate it. So you're wondering, how could a bet come in on that so strong? Brantley could get scorching. Like, I thought about that team. You're like, Mav be Mav, and then Brantley gets scorching and nothing. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I like that spot from you, Andy. And I'll be honest, that first team you mentioned, I've completely ignored, but Neesmith's been crushing it, and I'm one of these guys that every time you talk to data guys, they love Taylor Moore. At least there was a run there, so could be something to look at in that respect. You wish Norlander wasn't a pile of steaming, because that seems like a fun one to back. But
yeah, that might be my final ad. If there's a McNeely 75, I'm gonna hunt, see maybe every time it's like, oh, it's 60, it's 60, it's 45, ooh, 75. But then I think, well, what if there's an 85? I need to open 3 more tabs. So I'm gonna look at that, but odds are that's getting bet, and that's probably a top 20 bet as well for me. I never thought I'd be a Joseph Bramlett guy, but the numbers are there, and I am a Mav McNeely guy, so that's a look for sure. I'm gonna have to figure out. I like what Geoff said too. Like, I'm not sure I could do it with all 80 teams, but figuring out why some of these guys are playing together, you know, digging into their Instagram or just reading some press releases.
Need a $6,000, like $7,000, $6,000 DraftKings DFS play, any sort of play fantasy wise, because you've gone top heavy with Burns and another team. You've done Burns and you did the Chileans, and if you tell me these two guys have been best friends, like if you tell me they have the Spieth Thomas backstory, but instead of winning majors, they're just like the 80th and 110th best golfers in the world, that's enough for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, to make them in my lineup, to think they're gonna go have a thing. Like that's enough, as opposed to hearing random chairlift singles line at Disney entry. So
if somebody sent me a picture of Mav McNeely and Joseph Bramlett as 10-year-olds, and one of them had a big stupid sandwich sticking out of their mouth, I'd double the bet. Like that's what I need. I need the damn sandwich picture.
That's kind of exactly. It's all we're looking for. This it's so sad. But honestly, the more I think about it, I don't know how much of placing in head-to-head markets I really am going to be involved with, because Sunday can be a real shit show. Yeah. When things spin on Sunday, like they will spin bad. Just like alt shot is yeah, you know, as someone that lost, like you, Andy, the 10 shot to DJ swings on the player on Sunday in matchup. Sorry for bringing it up. I lost on those too. We're gonna see insane. Like, I wouldn't trust any sort of shot differential on Sunday in terms of a matchup, or think I'm safe in a 20 or T30 placing. The way, like, once things get spinning on Sunday, you guys can get frustrated, and even the other alt shot day. But by this point on Sunday, you're actually staring at it on Saturday night like that. It's possible. My point.
Yeah. I've had 2 back-to-back profitable weeks with these FanDuel top 40 parlays. They will not be on the card this week. I'm not going to push my luck whatsoever in a data-free team event with all these other things. Dan, is this true? Matt McNeely and Bramlett lived together during quarantine? That could be.
I don't even care. I'm not even going to fact check that. I am taking that as gospel. These guys built this bond. They were every day waking up. I heard Mav McNeely was making Bramlett omelets every morning when he would wake up. They'd have their coffee together and they'd go out and chip into a net in the backyard. I'm going to spin this. I might write an entire short story about these two. I just bet it. I found, again, there's a 75. I'm going to bet that.
75 on DraftKings and it's 47 on FanDuel. So again, like there's.
Yeah, I'm seeing more 40s.
Yeah, you usually don't see that gap on DraftKings and FanDuel. So it's bizarre. Yeah, another team, just again, back to the top of the board. I don't think that Mito and Neiman are kids that are like going to enjoy Louisiana. I think that they're going to win. That like Mito's in good form. Like that's probably going to be my top of the board play. The more I think about it, I think Neiman is playing really well. I don't know. I kind of like that pairing. I think those guys just want to win.
Yeah.
So
as I've bet both of them, I feel like I'm obligated to bet that one now.
Yeah.
To Andy's point, I bet them both last week. And the last time I hit a winner was Neiman at Riviera. So that's a team I have bet. I've bet them. I've bet Riley Zalatoris. I have bet him and Ann. I can follow that up with like 2 north of 50, or maybe I'm hoping I see like a 22 on Fleetwood and Sergi. Like I'm hoping nobody bets them, that maybe there's a boost or something, because I don't know who's betting it or the books just don't want it. But to your point, Ryan, that's one that I can just sort of feel. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's Mito with the breakout. Like that's how confident I am. And I love Neiman, but I'm saying like on Sunday, like I can count on both of them. And I bet them both last week. So I'm not stepping off it. I was able to get a 27. I didn't risk. I thought I didn't see it getting higher. So I bet it. And I'm sitting on it.
Yeah, 25 is the best I see out there on it now. Yeah, basically everything here legally stateside on the Sergio Tommy team is like 16, 17 on FanDuel. Pinnacle's at 23. So, yeah.
Well, what? So yeah, I'm expecting the other books to get there by Wednesday afternoon.
Bet Chris is down to 15 on Neiman.
Who's betting it?
Oh, on Neiman Pereira, 15.
Somebody, I mean, they're taking they're taking to win 50K. I mean, that's they're taking money on these at places who are taking big cash. So, yep. As much as Mito hurt me by not getting me. God, he had like an 8-1 top 10 price that I was spending on Thursday already. Whatever, it is what it is, but he's still playing so well, and I'll always bet Neiman. So 25-1, I'm in on that. So I just shopped around where I can, where I have the funds, where I don't have to move any Bitcoins anywhere. So the Team Chili, Team Adam S, Burns and Horschel, and then Mav McNeely and my guy Bramlett. Like those are in pen on the card, hit submits. Already have them, and that might be my whole card, man. Like Geoff said, it's tough. It's tough to sit here and like fully analyze a matchup between 4 golfers playing alternate shot in Louisiana on a Friday afternoon. Have fun with that.
And I like playing Narrative Street, but I'm also self-aware enough to know I don't know anything. I don't know any of these guys personally. They give us little nuggets that are half truths on the internet. Like so. While I like to play the Narrative Street angles, I am aware that I'm making them up probably too.
Okay, so this McNeely and Bramlett thing is apparently there's something to it.
Dan's sending us like newspaper clippings from them hanging their girlfriends or like hanging out and
all right. So late nights of ice cream and so that is totally. I'm buying it. I'm in. That will be sprinkled onto the card.
I gotta find this. I gotta find the non-40s. I got my money. I don't need to put in Bitcoin, and I have real Canadian dollars in. 75-1.
Let's go. All right.
Oh, I don't know.
I was gonna say head over to, I think Bodog has it.
Yes, that's where I was.
That's how I speak Canadian. Like check, check Sports Interaction there, fella.
No, I don't. I rarely use that book.
The only other real Canadian.
They need well, the problem, I don't want to go back there is I have some money there, and if I hit big, it'll be worth going through. But for me to cash out, they like want a stool sample right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like they want a blood cell. Like they need everything. They need DNA, stool, urine. So I got to hit a monster to even care about fighting that process. You know, the fun
it's like
part.
The bodega scene in with Chappelle. What movie is it? What movie am I? Half Baked.
Half Baked.
Yeah. Where he has to show the guy's ass. Like, oh yeah, this guy.
Filmed in my hometown.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's true.
Oh, was it nice? That's funny.
Yeah.
DraftKings says Maverick 75-1. So yeah, don't bet. Like, I get like that people aren't just going to open brand new accounts to get like 55-1 rather than 50. But when there are 75s in the market and 40s elsewhere, please look around and try to find a good number on this.
Doing this is hard enough. So when I hit a winner, it's got to last. Like it's got to fill for like this drought that I am currently on. So it's got to be at the biggest number possible. Okay? Like that's it.
Simple. Yeah. I wish it wasn't at DraftKings because I am slightly currently overextended on NFL draft bets on DraftKings because they've been first to market on a lot of stuff. But I have way more at FanDuel, but I can't bet a 47 when there's a 75. We need a community win on this this Team Ice Cream.
Yeah. And I am seeing like the two miss the cut market could maybe be interesting one from a props or specialty market. You can create a narrative for the same reason I've created the ones on the teams I'm betting. You can create narratives at why this team will not play well, be it New Orleans, they don't know, whatever you want to make. So that maybe could be one that I would have more faith in betting, but I don't trust anything on a alternate shot Sunday thing. So I'm probably not going to play placings like I thought I might.
Yeah. Stenson Rose, they're going down and just hang out, have some food.
Yeah, there's more cards needed if Henrik really, but I think once you accept Ryder Cup captaincy, you're sort of now like, I'm officially an invitational golfer, right? Like I'm a Ryder Cup captain. I'll be invited to invitationals. That's enough for me. Once you sort of take that path, I would think.
I agree. That's a good point. Yeah, he's probably doing okay. That's all I got, fellas. Anything else? Anything we're missing for the fine people here?
No, just don't get nuts, guys. It's a weird week. It's a weird event. We have these a few times a year. Do your best. If you have it's a fun week to tweet. Like if you have little nuggets like Dan found, like, hey, guess what? These guys were hanging out with each other during quarantine. Like those are good tweets. Put those out. Those are gonna do numbers because people love reading that sort of shit. So go do some research.
That's going to make their ownership so high now. Their ownership's going to be through the roof when we put out this story that their girlfriends love each other and they hung out all quarantine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're fully pushing the Mavs team. Top Gun Maverick. I'm probably gonna go watch that movie now too.
Obviously, we there's two forms on YouTube if you're hanging out with us now. Also in podcast form, if you didn't subscribe already, please do so. We'll be back this afternoon. John Daigle and myself will be trying to unpack this DFS slate the best that we can. Subscribe to the newsletter, betspertsgolf.com/newsletter that Andy does a terrific job with every week. You can get in on the win around with Paige that we have coming up here. Some information coming on that very soon. So for Andy and Geoff, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next week.
We will catch you. What's next week? Mexico?
Mexico.
Yeah. See you guys in Mexico.